However, all the research, all the analysis, the historical context, the commentaries, it was all incredibly helpful. But it wasn't enough. It was like I was standing outside a beautiful, inviting house, admiring its architecture, studying its blueprints, but never actually going inside. I was intellectually engaged, but something was still missing. I needed a deeper connection, a personal experience with the text. I needed to move beyond the head and into the heart. I'd been approaching the Bible as an intellectual exercise, a puzzle to be solved. I was focused on the historical accuracy, the theological arguments, the different interpretations. And while all of that was important, it was also somewhat detached. It was like I was observing a play, but I wasn't actually part of the story. I wasn't experiencing the emotions, the struggles, the triumphs of the characters. I wasn't letting the words speak to me. I realized I needed to change my approach. I needed to stop treating the Bible like a textbook and start treating it like a living word. I needed to find a way to connect with the text on a personal level, to allow it to resonate with my own experiences, my own questions, my own struggles. I needed to make it mine. So, I began to read the Bible more intentionally. Instead of just reading through it cover to cover, I started focusing on specific themes, on passages that resonated with my own life, with my own questions. I'd pick a topic, faith, hope, love, forgiveness, and then I'd search for passages that addressed those themes. I'd read them slowly, carefully, allowing the words to sink in, to challenge me, to comfort me. I started to focus on the Gospels, on the life and teachings of Jesus. I found myself drawn to his words, to his parables, to his interactions with people. I started to see him not just as a historical figure, but as a real person, someone who understood the human condition, someone who knew what it was like to struggle, to suffer, to doubt. I began to read the Psalms, the ancient poems and songs of praise and lament. I found myself connecting with the raw emotion, the honesty, the vulnerability of the writers. I saw my own struggles reflected in their words, my own doubts echoed in their cries for help. I began to read the letters of Paul, the apostle who wrestled with his own faith, who faced his own challenges. I found myself inspired by his passion, his dedication, his unwavering belief. I saw his struggles, his doubts, his triumphs, and I realized that I wasn't alone. I started to see the Bible not just as a historical document, but as a living word that speaks to the human condition. I began to understand that the stories weren't just about what happened in the past, they were about what's happening in the present, in my own life. I started to see the relevance of the Bible to my own struggles, my own questions, my own search for meaning. This wasn't an instant transformation. It wasn't like a light switch suddenly flipped on. It was a gradual process, a slow unfolding. There were times when I felt discouraged, times when I felt like I wasn't making any progress. But I kept reading, kept searching, kept questioning. And slowly, but surely, I began to experience a deeper connection with the text, a personal experience that would change my life. It was a journey of discovery, a journey of faith. And it was just getting started. I started reading the Bible more intentionally, and that was a game changer. Up until then, my approach had been somewhat scattered. I'd read passages here and there, following a reading plan occasionally, but it was all very passive, very surface level. I wasn't truly engaging with the text. I wasn't letting it speak to me in a way that truly mattered. Then, I shifted my focus. Instead of just trying to get through the chapters, I began to focus on specific themes, on passages that resonated with my own struggles, my own questions, my own doubts. I started to approach the Bible with intention, with a specific purpose in mind. It was no longer just about reading, it was about seeking. I'd identify a theme that was relevant to my life at that moment. Maybe it was faith, or hope, or forgiveness, or maybe it was grappling with suffering or uncertainty. And then, I would actively search for passages within the Bible that addressed that theme. I'd look for specific verses, specific stories, specific teachings that spoke to those issues. This was a completely different way of reading. It was no longer a passive experience, it was active, engaged, and personal. I wasn't just reading the words, I was searching for answers, for guidance, for connection. I was looking for something that would resonate with my own experiences, my own challenges. I began to focus on the Gospels, the stories of Jesus' life and teachings. I found myself drawn to his parables, his interactions with people, his profound insights into the human condition. I'd read a parable and then ask myself, what does this mean for me? How does this apply to my life? What lessons can I learn from this? I started to spend more time with the Psalms, the ancient poems and songs of praise, lament, and thanksgiving. I found myself deeply moved by the raw emotion, the honesty, the vulnerability of the writers. I saw my own struggles reflected in their words, my own doubts echoed in their cries for help. I realized that I wasn't alone in my feelings, that people throughout history had wrestled with the same questions and doubts that I was facing. I also began to read the letters of Paul, the apostle who wrestled with his own faith, who faced his own challenges. I found myself inspired by his passion, his dedication, his unwavering belief. I saw his struggles, his doubts, his triumphs, and I realized that I wasn't alone in my journey. He was a flawed human being, just like me, but he was also someone who had found a deep and abiding faith. As I read more intentionally, the Bible began to transform. It wasn't just a collection of historical documents, or a set of rules, or a collection of stories. It became a living word, a source of comfort, guidance, and inspiration. It became a mirror, reflecting my own struggles and my own hopes. I started to see the Bible not just as a historical document, but as a living word that speaks to the human condition. I began to understand that the stories weren't just about what happened in the past, they were about what's happening in the present. They were about my life, my struggles, my questions, and my search for meaning. I began to see the relevance of the Bible to my own struggles, my own questions, my own search for meaning. It was a powerful shift, a moment where the Bible truly came alive for me. This intentional approach was a turning point in my journey, a moment when the Bible began to feel less like a source of doubt and more like a source of comfort and guidance. I began to see the Bible not just as a historical document, but as a living word that speaks to the human condition. This was a profound shift, a pivotal moment on my journey. It was like the words on the page had finally come to life. They weren't just ancient stories anymore, they were relevant, immediate, and personal. I'd always known, intellectually, that the Bible contained timeless truths. But now, I was experiencing those truths. I was no longer just reading about faith, I was feeling it. I wasn't just learning about love, I was recognizing it in my own life. The text stopped being a collection of historical facts and became a mirror reflecting my own struggles, my own hopes, and my own deepest longings. This transformation really took root through prayer and reflection. Before, prayer felt awkward. Like I was talking to the ceiling. I didn't know what to say, how to say it, or even if anyone was listening. But as I started to read the Bible more intentionally, as I began to connect with the stories and the characters, prayer began to feel different. It became less about asking for things and more about listening, about opening myself up to a deeper connection. I started to see the Bible as a conversation. A conversation with God, with the writers, with the characters, and, most importantly, with myself. I began to see my own experiences reflected in the biblical narratives. The struggles of the Israelites, the doubts of the disciples, the triumphs of the prophets, it all felt so familiar. Through prayer, I started to find solace in the Psalms. The raw honesty, the expressions of joy, the moments of despair. I found that I wasn't alone. Others had felt the same way, had asked the same questions, had wrestled with the same doubts. The Psalms became a safe space, a place where I could express my own emotions without judgment. As I prayed, I started to experience a sense of peace and understanding that I hadn't known before. It wasn't an instantaneous transformation, but a gradual unfolding. Doubts didn't disappear overnight, but they began to feel less overwhelming. The Bible began to feel less like a source of doubt and more like a source of comfort and guidance. It was as if the words themselves were whispering to me, offering reassurance, offering hope. I began to see the Bible as a source of wisdom, a guide for navigating the complexities of life. The teachings of Jesus, the parables, the stories of compassion and forgiveness, they started to resonate with my own desire for meaning, for purpose, for connection. I started to see how the principles of the Bible could be applied to my everyday life, to my relationships, to my work, to my struggles. The Bible wasn't just about the past, it was about the present. It wasn't just about what had happened, it was about what was happening, right here, right now. The stories were no longer just historical accounts, they were parables for my own life. The characters were no longer just figures from the past, they were reflections of my own internal conflicts. This shift was not about ignoring the difficult questions. It was about finding a new framework for understanding them, for wrestling with them, for finding a deeper meaning within them. The Bible was no longer a source of intellectual challenge, it was a source of spiritual nourishment. It wasn't about proving anything, it was about experiencing something. It was about finding a connection that transcended the limitations of my own intellect. It was about finding faith. My faith journey wasn't a straight line. It wasn't a smooth, effortless ascent to some spiritual mountaintop. There were ups and downs, moments of soaring certainty and moments of crushing doubt. It was a roller coaster, a winding path through a landscape of both light and shadow. And the Bible was my constant companion throughout it all, a steady presence, a familiar voice in the wilderness. There were times when I felt completely confident, when the pieces seemed to fit together perfectly, when the doubts faded away and I felt an overwhelming sense of peace and understanding. These were the mountaintop experiences, moments of clarity and connection. During these times, the Bible felt like a warm embrace, a source of inspiration, a wellspring of hope. The stories resonated deeply, the teachings felt relevant, and the promises felt real. I felt like I was finally getting it. But then, inevitably, the doubts would return. The questions I thought I'd answered would resurface. The inconsistencies would seem glaring. The historical challenges would feel insurmountable. These were the valleys, the moments of darkness and uncertainty. During these times, the Bible could feel challenging. The words could seem opaque, the stories could feel distant, and the promises could feel out of reach. It was during these times that I questioned everything, that I struggled with the fundamental tenets of my faith. And it's important to be honest here, there were times when I felt like giving up. Times when the weight of doubt felt too heavy to bear. Times when the journey felt lonely and isolating. But even during those difficult moments, the Bible remained a constant. It was always there, waiting for me. Even when I didn't feel like reading it, the words were still there, offering a sense of stability in a sea of uncertainty. What kept me going during these periods of doubt? The answer, I think, lies in the practice of prayer and reflection. Through prayer and reflection, I began to experience a sense of peace and understanding that I hadn't known before. It wasn't an instant fix, a magic bullet that erased all my doubts. It was a gradual process, a slow unfolding, a deepening connection with something greater than myself. Prayer wasn't about reciting memorized phrases or following a rigid set of rules. It was about opening myself up, about listening, about seeking a connection with the divine. It was about being honest with myself, about acknowledging my doubts and my fears, and about seeking guidance. Reflection was about taking the time to process the words, to consider their meaning, and to apply them to my own life. It was about meditating on the scriptures, about allowing the words to sink in, to challenge me, to comfort me, and to inspire me. It was about finding the space to be still, to be present, and to connect with the deeper truths within the text. Through this practice, I started to see the Bible in a new light. It began to feel less like a source of doubt and more like a source of comfort and guidance. The Word started to speak to me in a new way, to offer answers to my questions, to provide solace in my moments of pain, and to inspire me to live a better life. The Bible became my anchor, my compass, and my guide, helping me navigate the ups and downs of my faith journey. It was a constant reminder that I wasn't alone, that others had walked this path before me, and that there was hope, even in the darkest of times. Today, I can honestly say that my faith is stronger than ever. The Bible is no longer a source of doubt, but a foundation of my life. It's become the bedrock upon which I build my decisions, my relationships, and my understanding of the world. But it wasn't an overnight transformation. It was a journey, a process, a constant evolution. Looking back, I can see how my perspective has shifted. The questions that once seemed so overwhelming, the doubts that plagued me for so long, they haven't completely disappeared. They've simply transformed. They've become less about questioning the existence of something and more about deepening my understanding of it. They've become a catalyst for further exploration, for a more nuanced and informed faith. The Bible itself? It's no longer a distant, intimidating text. It's become a trusted friend, a source of comfort, guidance, and inspiration. It's the lens through which I view the world, the compass that helps me navigate the complexities of life. It's the voice that encourages me, challenges me, and reminds me of the values I hold dear. What changed? How did I get from a place of skepticism to a place of faith? It wasn't a single event, a sudden revelation. It was a gradual process of learning, of questioning, and of experiencing. It was a journey that involved both intellectual and emotional engagement. It involved a willingness to embrace the unknown, to step outside of my comfort zone, and to trust in something greater than myself. The key, I think, was perseverance. There were times when I wanted to give up, when the doubts felt too overwhelming, when the path ahead seemed too difficult. But I kept going. I kept reading, I kept questioning, I kept searching. I didn't always have all the answers, but I had faith that I would find them. Or, perhaps more accurately, that I would be found by them. The more I read, the more I studied, the more I prayed, the more I began to understand the power of the Bible. I realized that it wasn't just a collection of stories, it was a living word. It wasn't just about the past, it was about the present. It wasn't just about what happened, it was about what is happening, every single day. The Bible began to speak to me in a new way. The stories resonated with my own experiences, the teachings offered guidance for my own struggles, and the promises provided comfort in my moments of doubt. I began to see the relevance of the Bible to my own life, to my own journey. And that's the beauty of it. The Bible is a book that can be read again and again, each time revealing new layers of meaning. It's a book that grows with you, that adapts to your changing circumstances, that offers wisdom and guidance for every stage of life. It's a book that can truly transform your life. So, today, my faith is not just a belief, it's a way of life. It's a foundation upon which I build everything. And the Bible is at the heart of it all. It's my source of strength, my source of comfort, and my constant companion on this incredible journey. Today, I can honestly say that my faith is stronger than ever. It's not just a feeling, it's a deep-seated conviction that permeates every aspect of my life. The Bible is no longer a source of doubt. It's become the very foundation upon which I build my life, my relationships, and my understanding of the world around me. It's the lens through which I see the beauty and the brokenness of humanity. Think back to where we started. The skepticism, the questions, the feeling of distance. It's almost hard to believe I was once so hesitant, so unsure. Now, the very same book that once felt like a closed door is now a window, letting in the light. The stories that once seemed distant and irrelevant are now alive, speaking to me with power and relevance. How did I get here? It wasn't a magic trick, a sudden conversion, or a blinding flash of insight. It was a journey, a process, a continuous unfolding. It involved wrestling with doubt, embracing the unknown, and persevering through times of uncertainty. It required a willingness to be challenged, to question my own assumptions, and to keep seeking. If you're struggling with doubt, know that you're not alone. I know the feeling of being lost in a sea of questions, of feeling like you're the only one who sees the contradictions and the complexities. I understand the struggle to reconcile faith with reason, the desire to believe, and the frustration when belief seems just out of reach. My journey shows that it's possible to move from doubt to faith. It's a testament to the power of searching, of questioning, and of opening yourself up to the possibility of something more. It's a reminder that the path to faith isn't always straight, but it's always worth walking. So, if you're on a similar path, if you're wrestling with your own questions, here's my advice: keep searching. Don't be afraid to dig deep, to explore different perspectives, and to challenge your own assumptions. Don't shy away from the tough questions, the seemingly contradictory passages, or the historical complexities. They are not roadblocks, they are opportunities for growth. Keep questioning. Question everything. Question the interpretations, the traditions, and even your own beliefs. Questioning is not a sign of weakness, it's a sign of intellectual honesty and a genuine desire to understand. It's the engine that drives you forward on your journey. And most importantly, keep reading. Read the Bible. Read it with an open mind, with a curious heart, and with a willingness to be challenged. Read it slowly, intentionally, and allow the words to speak to you. Let the stories resonate with your own experiences, and let the teachings guide you on your path. The Bible might just surprise you. It might challenge you, comfort you, and inspire you in ways you never imagined. It might reveal truths about yourself, about the world, and about the nature of faith itself. Remember, my journey is not a blueprint. Your journey will be unique, shaped by your own experiences, your own questions, and your own search for meaning. But the principles remain the same: perseverance, openness, and a willingness to seek. So, if you're struggling with doubt, take heart. There is a path forward. Keep searching, keep questioning, and keep reading. The Bible might just surprise you. It certainly surprised me. And it changed my life. So, if you're struggling with doubt, know that you're not alone. Truly. I've been there. I know what it's like to feel lost in a sea of questions, to feel like you're the only one who sees the contradictions, the complexities, the seemingly impossible leaps of faith that are sometimes required. I understand the struggle to reconcile faith with reason, the desire to believe, and the frustration when belief seems just out of reach, a flickering flame that constantly threatens to be extinguished by the winds of skepticism. My journey, the one I've shared with you today, is proof that it's possible to move from doubt to faith. It's not a guarantee, mind you. There's no magic formula, no easy button. But it is a testament to the power of searching, of questioning, and of opening yourself up to the possibility of something more. It's a reminder that the path to faith isn't always straight, that there will be bumps in the road, detours, and moments when you question whether you're even headed in the right direction. But it's a path that's always worth walking. So, if you're on a similar path, if you're wrestling with your own questions, if you're feeling that familiar tug-of-war between your head and your heart, here's my advice: keep searching. Don't be afraid to dig deep. Don't be afraid to explore different perspectives, to challenge your own assumptions, to venture into the unknown. Don't shy away from the tough questions, the seemingly contradictory passages, the historical complexities, or the theological debates. They are not roadblocks, they are opportunities for growth, for a deeper understanding, for a more nuanced and informed faith. Keep questioning. Question everything. Question the interpretations you're given, the traditions you're taught, and even your own beliefs. Question the easy answers, the simplistic explanations, the things you've always taken for granted. Questioning is not a sign of weakness, it's a sign of intellectual honesty and a genuine desire to understand. It's the engine that drives you forward on your journey, the force that keeps you seeking, keeps you growing, keeps you evolving. And most importantly, keep reading. Read the Bible. Read it with an open mind, with a curious heart, and with a willingness to be challenged. Read it slowly, intentionally, and allow the words to speak to you. Let the stories resonate with your own experiences, your own joys, your own sorrows, and your own struggles. Let the teachings guide you on your path, offering wisdom, comfort, and inspiration. Let the words sink in, challenge you, and change you. The Bible might just surprise you. It might challenge you, comfort you, and inspire you in ways you never imagined. It might reveal truths about yourself, about the world, and about the nature of faith itself. It might change everything. Remember, my journey is not a blueprint. Your journey will be unique, shaped by your own experiences, your own questions, and your own search for meaning. There will be times when you feel lost, when you feel discouraged, and when you feel like you're all alone. But you are not alone. The principles remain the same: perseverance, openness, and a willingness to seek. So, if you're struggling with doubt, take heart. There is a path forward. Keep searching, keep questioning, and keep reading. The Bible might just surprise you. It certainly surprised me. And it changed my life. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this story has been helpful.